The Linux system has a common hierarchy across all the platforms and flavors. For example, you will find the same directory structure between Kali Linux and any Debian Linux distros. In this presentation, I will show you all the essential directories found on Kali Linux and compare them to the Microsoft Windows folder structure. In the end, you need to understand the concept of all the directories that could help you during your penetration test. First of all is the root directory. In Microsoft Windows, it's the main C drive. On Kali, it's noted with the /. Also, it's good to understand that on a Linux system, we don't have the notion of a C or D or any letter drive. Now, in the Linux environment, the administrator user is called the root user. Don't confuse between the root user and the root directory, which I just talked about in the above line. Now, the home directory of the root user on Kali is either in /root or /home/root. Also, you will need to be the root user in order to access this directory. The user's home directory is under /home. This one is easy to guess, right? Now, for the external devices like a USB drive, when they are auto-mounted, they appear as a folder in the /media directory. Again, remember that unlike Windows OS, we don't have drives in a Linux system. In the old days of Linux, attaching external storage was done manually using mounting technique. The /mount folder is still used whenever you want to manually mount an external or remote storage system. Next is the folder where operating system application binaries are saved. In Windows, they're typically in the C Windows folder, but in Kali, it's a /bin folder. Take note that, in fact, that's not the only place in Kali where system binaries are stored. Soon you will see more about this concept. On the other hand, the system files in Kali are stored in the sbin folder. In Microsoft Windows, it's the system32 folder. Don't worry for now if you feel a little bit overwhelmed. During the demo, you will understand more about these directories. Now, when we install an application in Kali, it will end up generally in the /user folder. On the other hand, the OPT folder is an optional area to store your own applications as well. Next, the system configuration files are stored in the /etc folder. Folks, you will see these folders in this course multiple times. For now, try to get the big picture. In Kali, there is a temporary folder /tmp where you can store files and they will be deleted after a system reboot. Take note that this notion does not exist in a typical Windows operating system. Information about hardware devices are saved in 3 different places: /proc, /dev, and /sys directories. Also, it's important to understand that PC hardware devices are treated as files in a Linux operating system. And finally, systems and applications libraries are stored in /lib, /libx32, and /lib64 directories, and in some other places as well. I know that this is overwhelming, But the best way to understand the Linux system is through a visual demo. So let's get started. First of all, when we load the terminal window, we will land on the home directory of the user. In this case, the user is Kali. The tilde sign on the right side proves that we're in the user home directory. The alternative way to show the current home directory is to execute the pwd command, which stands for the print working directory. And voila, this is the path to the home directory of the Kali user. If you recall from the slides, the user's home directory is under the /home. Now let's switch to the root directory using the cd /command. And in case you're wondering, cd stands for change directory. To show all the main folders under this root directory, I will execute the ls command to list them underneath. I'll start with the bin folder. This directory contains the essential commands to run on Linux. I will switch to this directory to list the contents using the ls command. One of the binaries in this folder is called uptime. And when I execute it, it shows how long I've been using Kali since the last boot. Now, I can scroll up through this huge list and search for it, but it's a time-consuming and stressful task. What if I can filter out the command from the output of the ls command? The magic trick is to redirect the output of the ls command using the straight / character, and after that, filter out the results using the grep command. Next, I will go back to the parent directory using the cd command, followed by the 2 dots, which means go up 1 directory. Now that I'm back at the root directory, I will clear the screen using the clear command. And I will list again the folders in the root directory. Next in our list is the etc directory. This folder contains system configuration files. For example, the file that saves the user on the Kali OS is called passwd and is stored in the etc folder. I will use again the grep command to look for this file inside the etc folder. Next, I will use the cat command to show the contents of this file. Here you can see the system users and the real human users as well. We're done with this one. So let's go back to the root directory. Next is all the libs folders, which contain system libraries. Practically, you rarely touch these folders during a penetration test. The next one is the media folder. And this one contains any external storage connected to your host. I already have a USB drive connected to my host. Next, I will move to the Kali folder because that's the user I'm logged in with. Here we can see that I have a USB folder. Now be careful. In your case, the name could be different. It depends on what you named your USB thumb drive. If I change this current directory, I can now list the contents of my USB drive. All right, let's go back to the root directory. Our next candidate is the proc folder, which contains information about your host hardware, and also it contains information about current running processes. For example, to get the CPU information, we can use the cat command to open the file called CPU info. And here we can visualize all the CPU information for this host. Remember that host hardware devices are treated as files in a Linux operating system. In fact, most of the things are created as files in a Linux environment. Let's go back and list the root directory contents. The sbin folder holds all the system binaries that are related to system management. For example, the reboot command copy is located here, which allows rebooting your Kali from the command line. Now wait, there is an important concept that I haven't explained yet. Let me show you that by using the which command that will show us where binaries are located in the operating system. If I execute the which command for the reboot binary, it will show its location under the /user/sbin folder. Why? Confusing, right? Well, very important to understand that modern Linux operating systems use the /user folder to store binaries and libraries as well. Let me get out from here and minimize the terminal window and show you that on the GUI part. From the top left menu, I will click on the folder icon. Then I will select the open folder from the menu. Next, I will open the root directory by clicking on the file system item in the bottom left section of the window. And look at that. Here are all the system directories that I was showing you on the terminal window. Now pay attention that certain folders have the arrow in their bottom right corner. And that's because these folders point to another directory. If we take our example, the sbin folder, if I right click and then click on the properties from the menu, when the properties window opens, it shows that this directory is linked to another one, which is user/sbin folder in this case. Let's close this window and show you one more thing. Take note of all the folders that are linked to another folder inside the user directory. In summary, it's the bin, sbin, and all the libraries folders. We're done in the GUI section. Our next candidate is the tmp folder, which holds the temporary files. Remember, if you create any file in this directory, it will be deleted after reboot. In fact, this is the perfect place to store your files and binaries to escalate your privileges during a penetration test. That's because, in general, you'll have the permissions that allow you to execute your malicious scripts. Next is the boot folder, which contains the boot files. This directory should not be touched. Just keep it to your information. The home directory contains the users folder. If I list this directory, it shows that we have a single user called Kali. The more user we add, they will show here in this folder. All right, let's go back and check our next candidate. Next on our list is the mount directory. In the old days, people used to mount devices manually, but nowadays external devices are mounted automatically, and you don't need to do this manually anymore. But that doesn't mean that this folder is useless. In some case scenarios, during the pen test, you'll need to mount external resources like NFS shares, for example. The root folder is the home directory for the root user. Remember that in Linux, the administrator of the system is called a root user. Next, the SRV directory holds some server's data. If I list the contents of this folder, we can see that we have a TFTP server folder. All right, let's go back again. Our next candidate is the user directory. It's called the user directory because in the old days, that was the user's home directory. And that's not the case anymore. Nowadays, the user's home directory is /home. In Kali Linux, the user folder contains a mix of applications, system binaries, libraries, and much more. A very important folder to memorize for Kali is /user/share. This one contains all the hacking tools you'll need during the penetration test, like Nmap, Metasploit, and much more. Let's go back again to the root folder. The next directory is /dev, which stands for devices. This one contains the device files. For example, if you connected a webcam to your Kali, then the files will be generated and saved here at boot time. As a penetration tester, you won't really use this folder, but it's good to understand its purpose. The OPT directory is another place where optionally you can install your applications or scripts that you developed using Python or any other programming languages. Next, the sys directory is another virtual directory like the dev and proc folders, which contain data about devices. Finally, the var directory contains files and data that are meant to change frequently. As an ethical hacker, you will need to know that the Apache web server saved the files under the /var/www/html. Here, you'll store all your HTML and web application files like JavaScript, PHP, and much more.